So now it's time to begin lesson 1C, where we will learn our first melody, which is called Mary Had a Little Lamb. So Mary Had a Little Lamb is a very simple melody, but it's a good place for us to start and show you how to use the individual fingers for playing the individual keys on the piano. Okay? So notice how with each of these notes here, I wrote down the letter of the note and also the finger that you should use to play it. So 3 means the middle finger, 2 means the index finger, 1 means the thumb. And so in sheet music, generally, classical composers will put in fingerings at specific points if they believe that you should use a specific fingering for playing a specific note, because you could use any finger really to play these notes. But generally, the sheet music will provide a fingering that's like recommended, but in the end, it's up to the pianist what finger to use for which note, okay? So let's start with this one and go slowly, okay? E, D, C, D, E, E, E. Okay, so notice how this note looks different than this note. And that's because this is called a half note, whereas this is called a quarter note. So the reason why this is called a quarter note is because in this whole measure, there's 4 beats, okay? And so each of these notes equals to 1/4 of this whole measure. All right, so that's why here we have 4, and then here we have 3, but then this guy is actually a half note, okay? And that's why it occupies 50% of this whole bar, okay? And that's the difference between half note and quarter note. And then there's also 8th note, 16th note, whole note. So those are all subdivisions of 4 notes per bar or per measure, okay? So let's continue. So here we jump to the left hand and continue. Okay, so notice how the melody, when we were playing with the right hand, we used the fingers 3, 2, 1. And then with the left hand, we used the fingers 3, 4, and 5. Okay? So that is something that you will have to get used to as you play piano, is to recognize that the 2 hands, because they're opposite of each other, right? You're going to use different fingers to play the same melody. So now we're going to see that in action when we put both hands together, okay? Let's do it very slowly. And use the same fingerings as before, okay? D, 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 E, G, G. Okay, and now we're going to jump up an octave for the right hand, and we're going to jump down an octave for the left hand, okay? So find your spot with the E, okay? Okay, so notice how this last note looks like this. So without a stem, that means whole note. If we add a stem here, that means half note. And if we fill this in, it means quarter note. Okay, so when it's a whole note, that means it takes up this entire bar. Okay, and you should count 4 beats basically. Okay, so now you know how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. So now let's just do a quick variation of this with dark Mary Had a Little Lamb. And so the way we make it dark is to change this first E to an E flat. So here we go. And we'll do both hands together. So you will find instead of E, okay, you will do E flat. And then everything else is the same, okay? So let's go. Okay, so notice how the E flat here, right, by changing it from E to an E flat, it definitely darkens the melody a lot. And so that's why this is Dark Mary Had a Little Lamb. So that shows you how easily music can be manipulated to suit your purpose. And that gives you an understanding of how you can use music theory to your advantage when you're playing the piano. Because if you know music theory, then you can actually just make up music on the spot without having to rely on sheet music. So that concludes lesson 1C, where you learn how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb and the dark version.